More CM Punk and the Elite AEW backstage fight details have been leaked. We have a reason why Roman Reigns won the Clash at the Castle main event that has been revealed, and we have an update on who will face Reigns on a big premium live event next. Find out who in a little tickle. Not my words, but the words of former WWF superstar Taz, who enjoys rice pudding. Thank you to that person there who was at Rampage last night for their lovely sign and dedication to Sam's weird AI version of Taz. Thank you. But we have some news now from the backstage goings on in AEW for the first time this week there, Fraser.
The first time this week.
That was a sarcastic comment. But we have a witness to the big backstage fracas that happened in... That's not a Nick Jackson noise, by the way. Fracas. In CM Punk's dressing room. Who is this, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter there, Fraser?
It is the only MJF. The company saying that the company has brought in an independent firm to investigate and do video interviews with everyone in the room, which included all the names mentioned above as CM Punk, the Bucks, Ace Steel,
Omega,
Kenny Omega, you know, the dog, Larry. But it also includes key names that were MJF and the legal officer for AEW. MJF being a witness is a surprising one. Obviously, he was backstage after the show, I imagine. He was in the main event spot, somewhat.
Yeah.
He's probably got a couple of things to say. He's probably seen it.
You can't allow any sort of political goings-ons to sway what he's going to tell someone in a legal process.
Of course, no.
So, let's just cast his gimmick as an arsehole to one side. It's obviously a very interesting thing because MJF is MJF, and MJF, despite being very, very young, is still one of the bigger names in AEW. So obviously him being there it's quite shocking to me because of all the names you would expect to be there on the periphery, he would be one of the last ones because you never hear of him being like sort of, you know, one of the guys,
one of the boys,
with the Elite and CM Punk and all that sort of stuff. So I guess this is just one of those sort of situations that we'll have to keep tabs on, and obviously there's the big third-party investigation going on, and I'm sure we'll learn more about that in the coming weeks.
The interesting thing there for me is that everyone else that was involved has been suspended. Yeah. Like you had Daniels, you had Pat Buck, you had everyone else suspended from that event. MJF wasn't.
Yeah, I assume he was just an onlooker. He barged into the room when he heard the fracas going on.
As it says, a key witness.
Yeah, and MJF. Obviously the big one there as well is obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars chief legal officer, Mega Parak. I think that's how you say that name.
Spot on.
And I think she's got a position high up behind the scenes in AEW as well. Yes. So the fact, I forget who was saying it last week, but someone was saying in the news on the websites and whatnot that she was there for a portion of the fight. So her being there is obviously very helpful for the investigation as well.
Indeed.
Yes, and of course last week before AEW Dynamite went on the air, we heard of a big talent meeting that was taking place in AEW. We had Chris Jericho, we had Bryan Danielson, we had Jon Moxley heading up that there thing. Three people who could not be more better suited for that sort of role. They've been there and done it everywhere around the world. And Fightful Select has some scopes from this big talent meeting. What are they saying, Frazier?
It is believed that the meeting addressed the talent keeping personal decisions in-house rather than go to the dirt sheets about it.
Or a press conference.
Which is just that's the best way to air all your dirty laundry. Fightful also reported that following Jericho's response this past weekend, which has been heavily praised, you know, the locker room really see him as a leader, as the sort of guy to get behind. While Danielson's reaction has been very cool, calm, and funny, while Moxley's promo this week...
You don't have a cow, man.
Yeah, it's just very
Eat some vegetables and be quiet, yeah.
That's Danielson in the room with it, wow. While Moxley's promo on Dynamite was seen as a big deal backstage, especially the fact that he quite openly was like, I'm meant to be on vacation.
Well, that was the thing as well. I said this on the podcast, available now on your podcast feeds and on the YouTube, that Moxley's promo didn't so much feel like a promo to the fans. It felt like a message to the people behind the scenes, just the stuff he was going about, what the title means and represents. He was on about, like, let's remember the vision we all shared when we kicked off this thing. It felt like he was speaking to the wrestlers rather than us fans, but it was nice.
I really liked his promo. It was so good, especially when you juxtapose it with MJF's promo, and it's sort of like allows you to get the criticism of AEW in there, but also have Moxley just be like, look, we're fine. Everything's going to be okay. Hopefully more details will come out about this backstage meeting. Fightful reported, though, that everyone's being very tight-lipped about it and not really saying anything, perhaps out of fear right at this point. If Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, and Bryan Danielson are going, don't say a word. Keep it in-house. you're not going to.
Well, Jericho's clearly been leaking things to the press, hasn't he?
He's Meltzer's number one.
It was just the initial report was like, this will CM Punk, CM Punk. But Jericho has been highly praised for his decorum during this entire thing. Just having with the
reminds me of that time where there was an issue with MVP and Jericho at a hotel.
At the hotel.
And it was like MVP backed down, but Chris Jericho walked away triumphant. It's like, of course, that is Jericho that's been saying.
Yeah, it's a good thing he hasn't sort of been labelled as a guy who's got a very good relationship with the likes of Dave Meltzer over the past 20 to 25 years. More CM Punk news. I guess this was a bit of a giveaway when he was speaking to Nick, I forget his surname again, Nick Hausman?
Yes, Nick Hausman.
He was saying, oh, you've ruined my spot, basically, when Nick Hausman said, oh, I'm not friends with Colt Cabana anymore, Punk, with your premeditated speech. But we have confirmation from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. One person noted that Punk 2 weeks ago when he returned said the press conference after All Out 2022 would be interesting. So well done, Nick, for blowing his spot.
Yeah, yeah, he's come in with it. He's like, right, I'm going to do it. Should I say it now? And then someone's gone, yeah, I'm not mates with him.
Who fancies himself as a journalist in here? Oh, you there that I recognise there. Are you friends with Colt Cabana?
Yeah, he's like, I'll pick randomly someone in the crowd.
He must have felt like a right whopper there, but he went for it anyway, and then we've had lots of headlines this week, so fair enough there. And now we have the reason, obviously, in the arena, it was a massive shock that Drew McIntyre lost the main event to Roman Reigns at Clash at the Castle after Sheamus lost to Gunther. I was expecting at least one of those lads to get the big victory just to send the crowd home.
It feels weird that they didn't have at least one hometown victory on the card.
But they put too much stock in karaoke, so they did. That was a weird ending that we'll never ever forget.
Did you sing?
Of course I did.
Yeah.
I had Strongbow Dark fruits in my veins.
So yeah, you were
several hours. I've been drinking for like 8 hours at that point. I was Anyway, we have news from Wrestling Observer newsletter as to why Roman Reigns defeated Drew McIntyre in the main event. What is the news there, Fraser?
It says the reality is the company has a long-term commitment to Reigns as its top guy and champion. They want to make him a legend for this generation, and ending a long reign for a major pop here was a decision that they decided against, which I think
makes sense, doesn't it?
Makes sense, as much as my heart was completely torn that Drew didn't manage to get that victory, which, 30 years build up to get a hometown pay-per-view, and they don't pull that trigger.
It felt like Jack the Jobber was the only person in the United Kingdom who was fully convinced that Drew was going to do it and beat Roman Reigns. Because headed in, I was thinking Drew just hasn't got that steam that he had going into WrestleMania 36 during the pandemic, where it felt like him winning the title was the natural conclusion to that story. It just didn't feel like he had that going in. I know the stage was set because are we going to get another pay-per-view of that scale in the UK for a while? I've got no idea. I'd hope so. I'd like to think so. Yeah, make it a yearly thing or something like that. But yeah, just it didn't feel like the right time for Drew McIntyre, and the way they did it as well, I thought was really good. Just having Solo Sikoa make his debut, because nobody was that when he did the spear and the Claymore, and then Solo was there, we fell over.
I mean, that's the thing.
It was amazing.
If Solo wasn't there, he would have won.
Yeah,
and that's so it's like, okay, he can beat Reigns.
He kicked out with two spears as well as
right. Yeah, so
Reigns,
he was put over quite a bit.
Yeah.
It is a shame. It was like, maybe, as you said, the build-up wasn't there for Drew to go over that this time. Maybe they should have done that. They should have maybe just pushed him a bit more in the run-up. As you said, maybe Jack was the only person that was completely convinced. So
that's the thing. They've been built up. Obviously, Reigns' title reign's gone over the 2-year mark at this point, so they're going to make the call for whoever beats him. That's a career-making victory. So obviously, they're going to put all the thought into it and get it right the first time around.
Cody Rhodes.
I'm not against it.
I'm not against
it. That's America's hero. That's AEW's hero who've come to learn since he left. It's all gone wrong.
Oh yeah, he's been doing the eye emojis.
But we've also learned via the Wrestling Observer newsletter who Roman Reigns will be going on to face, not at Extreme Rules, but at the next Saudi Arabia pay-per-view. It won't be Seth Rollins or Kevin Owens, obviously.
Yep.
Well, obviously for Kevin Owens because he doesn't travel out there. Seth Rollins, I don't know what the reason for that one is, but it looks like, according to Ravy Davey Meltzer in the Observer newsletter, that they would seem to favour either Drew McIntyre or Karrion Kross, unless they've got somebody from the past, but they've done that to death, basically, with Goldberg and with Lesnar and whatnot. And I'm sitting there looking at those two names and giving the options. I hope it's Karrion Kross, just for it being something new.
Something new. And they had sort of something last night with Kross and Drew. Karrion Kross choked him out at the end of the show, and they're doing a weird black and white thing with the screen. I don't like it.
No, it's subtext.
Yeah, but he attacked him and then it black and white immediately. Someone's on the button. But it's I think Karrion Kross is the right move, but also I don't think Karrion Kross should be losing to Reigns this early in his return.
No,
which is kind of, they've backed themselves into a corner. I personally would actually choose Seth Rollins out of the list. Seth can take a loss, as we've seen over the past year, and come out of the other side quite unscathed, and we've still got unfinished business between them. But between McIntyre and Kross, cross.
Or what they could do, because I don't know when the next Saudi Arabian show is, but I assume it's at least a month away.
It's November.
Is it November? We've got plenty of time to make LA Knight the #1 contender and have him beat Reigns.
There you have it. That's going to be
Saudi Arabia.
That's your money.
Do it, you cowards. But yeah, again, I hope the Karrion Kross is built up, because if the match was taking place, next weekend at a pay-per-view, it just wouldn't feel like the right time either, would it? He barely got his feet under the table.
Yeah.
I think he looked like a mug going all the way to Cardiff just to throw a bottle of Drew McIntyre.
Right, imagine
What a
flying.
weirdo.
Can you get on a flight and fly 8 hours just to throw a bit of rubbish at him?
Bye.
And then stare off at him.
He didn't even make it to the end of the match before, because we were like next to where they were getting wheeled in and out on the little carts from the backstage area, and he didn't even make it to the end of the match before him and Scarlett were getting wheeled out again.
If you do it in
Incredible.
kayfabe, he's bought a ticket to be there.
Yeah.
He's bought a ticket.
Yeah.
He's flown over the Atlantic to buy a ticket to throw a bottle and then leave.
Drew did nothing, and he did nothing after that. He looked like a right mug.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is the news there. Reigns possibly taking on McIntyre or Cross in Saudi Arabia in November. Leave your thoughts and opinions about that down below. Fraser, you got anything to plug about the future?
Nothing to plug about the future. The podcast went out last night. As
It
you
did.
said, it was an exciting one. We had a wee hot tag in the middle of
Yeah,
it.
Matthew had to leave basically early, so we had to tag in Fraser for the last hour and a bit or something
good
like
fun.
that. So
It
yeah,
was
it was
good fun.
Lovely times. Obviously, myself and Chatler Jobber. Tier list tomorrow, 1:15 BST. I beg your pardon.
BST,
We are
British
taking the
summertime.
We are taking the PST with that length, because it is every AEW pay-per-view in a tier, and we'll find out what's the best and what's the worst and how much you disagree with that. So that's it for the news today. Thank you to Rampage Man with his sign. Taz loved it. We'll see you next time.
So, yeah.